What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your host, Isaiah, and tonight we are live as I will be recapping the Tennessee Titans free agent signings. And man, y'all, the Tennessee Titans were very aggressive in free agency as they signed 13 players. And honestly, this is what we needed to do because our roster was absolutely horrible. So we definitely needed to be aggressive in terms of trying to upgrade our roster and really add some better players to our team. And that is exactly what we did, y'all. So I'm super fired up to be able to recap all these signings that the Tennessee Titans made, How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoyed this stream. If you're new, please hit the sub button. Also, hit the like button and share this stream to everyone you know. But without further ado, y'all, let's get straight into it. So let's start with the marquee guy, Mr. Wan'Dale Robinson, a 4-year, $70 million deal. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I thought he was going to get close to 20 to 25 million per year. So the fact that this contract is a little just bit over 17 million a year is a really great deal for the Titans. But y'all, Wan'Dale Robinson is everything that we needed in a wide receiver. He's elusive, he's shifty, he can beat press man coverage, he gets open quickly, he has good hands, you can line him up out wide or in the slot. But y'all, the biggest thing I like about him is his explosiveness. I mean, he is so explosive after the catch, so dynamic with the football in his hands. You just want to get him the football any way you can, whether that's passing it to him or if it's handing it off to him, in the jet sweep game. Just get the football in Wan'Dale Robinson's hands, and he can make something electric happen with it. And y'all, this is really what we needed because when you look at our current wide receiver room, obviously it seems like we're going to be keeping Calvin Ridley, which I agree with, right? Calvin Ridley is still a very productive player. He just needs to stay healthy. We have Alec Iomanner and Chimere Dike, two young guys for us that play fairly well in their rookie seasons, but neither one of those guys are very elusive. Neither one of those guys are very dynamic after the catch. They're much more like possession wide receivers. But, y'all, we needed someone that can really take the top off the defense, that can really stretch the defense vertically and horizontally. And that's what we have in Wan'Dale Robinson. And that's why I'm so fired up about this signing because he brings exactly what we need in our offense. Again, that dynamic ability, that explosiveness, being an elusive and shifty wide receiver that can get open quickly. Because, y'all, what's the biggest area of concern that the Titans had last season when it pertained to their wide receivers is that we didn't have anybody that could get open quickly, right? It took our receivers so long to be able to beat press man coverage. But, y'all, now that we have a guy in Wan'Dale Robinson that can beat press man coverage, it's going to make life so much easier for Cam Ward because now he knows he at least has one wide receiver that is going to be able to create separation, in a couple of seconds, y'all, which is really going to help Cam Ward. It's going to help speed the game up for him because he's not going to have to sit back, for 5 to 10 seconds looking for a wide receiver to get open. He can, sit back for a couple of seconds knowing that Wan'Dale Robinson can get open in a timely fashion. And y'all, I'm just very ecstatic about this signing. And again, the fact that this is, just a 4-year, $70 million deal, just slightly over $17 million per year. I mean, that is a bargain for us, y'all, because Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, can be a 1,300 yard wide receiver. I mean, we saw what he did last year for the New York Giants, right? He had over 1,000 yards, and that was with him having, Jackson Dart and Russell Wilson as his quarterbacks. Just think what he's going to do playing with Cam Ward, playing in this offense. And as we know, he's very familiar in this offense because Brian Daboll was his head coach. And so I just think this signing made so much sense for both parties, for Wan'Dale Robinson and for the Tennessee Titans, because again, y'all, this gives him an opportunity to, finally kind of establish himself as a number one receiver in the league. And for the Titans, he's going to bring some much needed explosiveness to our wide receiver room, y'all. So I'm incredibly fired up to have him on the team. And I think now you look at our wide receiver core, it looks pretty solid. Calvin Ridley, Tim DK, Alec Iomanner, and now Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, y'all, I still think we need to draft a wide receiver because Calvin Ridley probably won't be on this team next year. So we definitely need to start thinking about the long term at our wide receiver position. But for this year, it looks like we're going to have a pretty solid wide receiver core. So you have to be extremely excited about that. And y'all, again, Wan'Dale Robinson is going to bring everything that we desperately need in our wide receiver room. And next up, y'all, we have probably my favorite signing as we sign John Franklin Myers, former defensive tackle for the New York Jets and Denver Broncos. And y'all, I don't even think it's a question as to which team has the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL, because I think that title belongs to the Tennessee Titans. John Franklin Myers and Big Jeff Simmons. Wow, y'all. I mean, the interior pressure that we're going to generate is going to be absolutely incredible. And I've always said that I think it's more important to be able to generate interior pressure than exterior pressure, y'all, because you can get quicker to the quarterback from the interior than you can from the exterior. And that's why I think it's so important to have two, really good defensive tackles that can get after the quarterback at an elite level. And that's what we have, y'all, in John Franklin Myers and Big Jeff Simmons. And when you look at John Franklin Myers, he is much more than just a pass rusher, though. He is very good at stopping the run, really great at filling gaps and being able to penetrate and accelerate upfield. And y'all, he's super versatile. You can line him up at 3 tech as a defensive tackle. You can line him up at 5 tech as a defensive end, which is what Robert Saleh did a lot of during their time with the New York Jets. You see a lot of plays, y'all, where John Franklin Myers was lined up as a 5 tech defensive end. And so that just goes to show you the type of versatility that he has. You can play him inside, but you can also kick him out to the outside and let him, generate that pressure from the exterior. So I think having this type of versatility and a defensive tackle, y'all, is going to be a huge bonus for us, because we have not had this really ever. I mean, because Albert Haynesworth and Jarrell Casey, they were really like true defensive tackles. You didn't really want them lining up outside. And then, Big Jeff, you can line them up occasionally, but you really want line him up outside occasionally, I should say, but you really want him doing his work from the interior as a 3 tech defensive end. So we've never had a defensive tackle that's had this type of versatility where he can be dominant inside or on the outside, y'all. And I think when you look at our front four of Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, Big Jeff Simmons, and Femi Oladejo, I think that's a pretty solid group. Now, I still think that we need to address edge rusher. I know everyone keeps saying, well, now that we have John Franklin Myers, we don't necessarily need a dominant edge rusher, because he and Big Jeff Simmons are going to generate pressure from the inside. And that's true, y'all, but we still need another edge rusher, right? We definitely need, a number one true edge rusher that is a game record that really, instills fear into the offensive lineman that he's going up against. We don't necessarily have that, although I think Jermaine Johnson is a good player. But, y'all, this was definitely a step in the right direction in terms of building our trenches, building up this defensive line, because as we all know, games are won and lost in the trenches. And now when you look at the Tennessee Titans, we look like we're going to be pretty stout up front. Again, this dynamic duo of John Franklin Myers and Big Jeff Simmons. And y'all, I know a lot of people out there have been saying that we overpaid for John Franklin Myers. Giving him a 3-year, $63 million deal was way too much. But y'all, that's how free agency is. I mean, you're going to have to overpay for some of these guys. It's just how it goes. And I don't have a problem with it because he is well worth the money that we paid him, because he is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, y'all. And don't let his accolades fool you. I know he's never made a Pro Bowl team, or he's never been voted as an All-Pro, but he is arguably the second best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. I think Big Jeff Simmons is the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL, but you can make an argument that John Franklin Myers is the second best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. So because of that, y'all, we now have the best defensive tackle duo in the NFL. And like I said about Wan'Dale Robinson, John Franklin Myers has a lot of familiarity playing in this scheme, as he was under the tutelage of Robert Saleh with the New York Jets. And that's when John Franklin Myers, had his best seasons, was under Robert Saleh's tutelage. And so I cannot wait to see, y'all, what he's going to do in the Tennessee Titans uniform. But again, he and Big Jeff Simmons are going to form a vicious defensive tackle duo. And next up, y'all, we have cornerback Alontae Taylor. A 3-year deal for Alontae Taylor, coming in at $60 million. So $20 million a year for him. And y'all, I love this sign. I mean, what can I say? I absolutely love this sign. I think Alontae Taylor is one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. You're talking about a guy that has the height, weight, speed. He's 6 feet, 200 pounds. He's very fast, very athletic, incredibly versatile, as he can play in the slot or at the outside corner position. But the biggest thing I like about Alontae Taylor, y'all, is his aggressiveness and physicality. I mean, for a guy that's only, 6 feet, 200 pounds, he plays like he's about 6'5", 250 pounds, because he is so aggressive in coverage. He's not afraid to jam wide receivers and challenge them at the line of scrimmage. He is a physical tackler. I mean, I've seen this guy absolutely blow up running backs. And we know that Robert Saleh loves corners that are not afraid to tackle, y'all. And he has it in Alontae Taylor. And I think Alontae Taylor can become a Pro Bowler. Now, I know he had some inconsistencies early on in his career when it came to his coverage ability, but I think he's cleaned it up the last couple of years. And is he like a shutdown corner, like a Jalen Ramsey or a Patrick Peters, one of these guys that was just an elite corner in their prime? Not necessarily, but he's a very good player, y'all. And when you look at the predicament that our cornerback room was in before we made this signing, I mean, we easily had the worst cornerback room in the NFL. And so I know some people have, said that we overpaid for Alontae Taylor. But again, y'all, as I said, when it pertained to John Franklin Myers, you have to do that in free agency. You're going to have to overpay these guys if you want to acquire them. And that's just the way life goes in free agency, y'all. But I think this is a very good deal for us. And given his age of only being 27 years old, I think he can definitely be a part of this team for the long term. And I'm incredibly fired up to have him. He's from Tennessee, from Manchester, Tennessee. Now, he gets to come home to Nashville, and I think he's going to be incredibly motivated because of that. And again, y'all, I think he can become a Pro Bowler under Robert Saleh's tutelage. I mean, think about the corners that have had success playing in Robert Saleh's defense. You're talking about guys like Charvarius Ward, Renardo Green. These are guys that people did not think were really, that good of players, but once Robert Saleh was unable, to take them under his wing, he turned him into some really good players. And here's the thing, Alontae Taylor is already a really good player, but I do believe he has the potential to become a Pro Bowl player, because when you just look at his skill set, I mean, he is a all-around corner. Again, y'all, very good tackler, super aggressive in coverage. And he's a very good blitzer as well, coming from that slot position. So I just love him as an all-around corner. I think he's going to be a great addition to this defense. But, y'all, that was not the only corner that the Tennessee Titans signed, as they also signed former Giants corner Cordell Flott to a 3-year, $45 million deal. And, y'all, this was a A++ signing for the Tennessee Titans. And I know I've been incredibly ecstatic about the first three signings that we discussed when it came to John Franklin Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Alontae Taylor. But, y'all, I really believe this was the best signing that the Tennessee Titans made, because I think Cordell Flott's best football is yet to come, and he fits what the Titans are looking for at the cornerback spot. He's 6'2", 175 pounds, very athletic, y'all, and is a press man corner, has really good instincts. He jams wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. He gets very physical with them. And I think for him, y'all, if he can improve his ball skills, he can be one of the top man coverage corners in the NFL, because when you turn on the tape, again, you see a guy that's just incredibly disruptive and man coverage, and he does not, generate a lot of penalties, which is kind of rare, because normally when you see these type of corners that are very aggressive and physical in coverage, they get, called for a lot of flags. But that's not the case with Cordell Flott, right? He has really good hands. He knows where to place his hands at. He knows not to, get too physical with a receiver to the point where he would get called for a flag. So I really love that aspect of his game. And again, y'all, he's a Robert Saleh corner because he's aggressive and physical. And I think you're starting to see that the Titans have an archetype that they're looking for when it pertains to that cornerback spot. They want guys that have the height, weight, speed, that are very physical and aggressive in coverage, and are not afraid to tackle. And that's who we have in Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott. And here's the thing, y'all. I know I said that Alontae Taylor is still young, and he is. He's only 27 years old, but Cordell Flott is only 24 years old. So I think you're talking about a guy that could realistically be our number one corner for maybe about, 7 to 10 years. I mean, honestly. So I'm incredibly fired up that not only did we get a really good player who I believe best football is ahead of him, but we got a guy, y'all, that's incredibly young and can actually be here for the long term. And so, again, really love the signing of Cordell Flott. I'm honestly surprised that more teams were not interested in him, because when you look at his skill set and his age, y'all, I mean, you would have thought he would have been in incredibly high demand this offseason. But fortunately for us, he wasn't. We were able to get him, y'all. So now you look at our two outside corners, because I think Alontae Taylor is going to play on the outside, even though he's really good in the slot. I think, though, when you're paying a corner $20 million a year, you definitely need him to play on the outside. But when you look at our outside corners, y'all, Cordell Flott and Alontae Taylor, two really good man coverage corners that are physical, that are aggressive, and are not afraid to tackle. So I love this duo that we have with Cordell Flott and Alontae Taylor. And we're going to talk about another guy in a few moments, y'all, that we signed to this cornerback room. But, man, you have to give a lot of credit to Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh and the way they attacked this cornerback position because, again, y'all, before free agency, we had the worst cornerback room in the NFL. And I love the fact that Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh were very aggressive in terms of, turning what was a weakness into a big strength for us. And really the secondary overall, because now we have Alontae Taylor, Cordell Flott, Amani Hooker, and Kevin Winston. So on paper, y'all, we have a pretty good secondary. Obviously, we'll have to see these guys prove it on the field, but man, talk about a transformation that this cornerback room underwent, y'all. Again, very fired up about having Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott as our two starting corners. And I think we all expect those guys to lock up these elite wide receivers in the NFL for us this upcoming season and for years to come. But, y'all, that was not it, right? We talked about adding players defensively like John Franklin Myers, Alontae Taylor, Cordell Flott. We also got Cam Ward, a new playmaker, and Wan'Dale Robinson. But, y'all, the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to be honest, I don't necessarily agree with these two signings that we made to our offensive line. But I'll give them this. At least they will add some depth to this position. But yeah, y'all, I don't necessarily agree with these signings that we made. And let's start with the first one, y'all. Austin Sloutman. Now, I've seen some people on Twitter get incredibly excited about Austin Sloutman because he started 4 games for the Giants last year and he didn't allow a sack. Y'all, here's the thing. He is a backup center, point blank, period. Now, the great news is that we only signed him to a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. But, y'all, I kind of think that was an overpay because I think he's a below average backup. I definitely don't think he's a good starter, but I don't even think he's that good of a backup because when I watched him play, y'all, I saw a guy that has terrible play strength, that gets, put on his back way too much, and I don't like his anchor, right? I don't like his stance. And so I'm very concerned about our center position right now because I think that the Titans think he can actually be their starting center. And I know that sounds incredibly ridiculous, but y'all, I really believe that's what the Tennessee Titans think, that Austin Sloutman can be their starting center. And I know some of you are probably going to say, well, Zay, he has familiarity in playing in this offense because obviously he was a member of the New York Giants last year, which means that Brian Daboll was his head coach. And y'all, that is true, but I'm telling you, Austin Sloutman is a below average player. And we have to address this center position immediately. We cannot go into the season with Austin Sloutman being our starter. Now, the great news is, y'all, is that there's some really good interior offensive linemen in this draft class. Like, I think it's guys like Jake Slaughter and Logan Jones that you can get potentially in the 4th or 5th rounds. The problem is, though, y'all, those guys are going to be rookies. So how much can you expect a rookie to come in and immediately be a starter for you, especially a 4th or 5th round pick? I mean, that's very unrealistic to expect a 4th or 5th round pick to immediately be a starter for you from day one. So I'm very concerned about this center spot, y'all. Again, I know he started 4 games last year and he didn't allow a sack, but y'all, that is a very small sample size. I mean, he has never played more than 42% of his snaps in a season. So he is, for his entire career, y'all, and he's been in the league since 2018, he has always been a backup player. And now, for whatever reason, a lot of Titans fans think that he's going to come in here and actually be a serviceable starter for us. No. Absolutely not. We have to address this center position immediately. I'm going to say it one more time. We have to address this center position immediately. Because right now, y'all, I'm very concerned about the interior of our offensive line. And while we're discussing it, let's go ahead and get into the other offensive lineman that the Titans signed. As we signed former Cincinnati Bengals guard Cordell Volson to a 1-year, $4.2 million deal. And I'll say this, he's a better player than Austin Sloutman. But it's not saying much because Austin Sloutman is a below average player. But Cordell Volson, y'all, he's a guy that has versatility, right? He can play either guard spots, left or right. You know, he's decently athletic, and he's pretty okay as a run blocker, but he is really bad in pass protection. And I don't think he moves in space well, which is why I kind of question why the Titans even signed him, because we know in Brian Daboll's system, he wants his offensive lineman to be, you know, incredibly athletic, to be light on their feet, to be able to really move, you know, horizontally. That's not who Cordell Volson is, y'all. So I just really don't understand this signing from a scheme perspective, and then I also don't understand it from a talent perspective, because I really think, and Paul Korowski kind of even said this, y'all, but if y'all don't know who Paul Korowski is, he's a Tennessee Titans reporter, but he tweeted a couple of days ago that the plan is for Jackson Slater and Cordell Volson to actually battle it out for the starting right guard position. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So we're going to have a 5th round draft pick, y'all, who only played 34 snaps last year, and a guy in Cordell Volson who's very below, I'll say he's average, who's very average. We're going to let them battle it out at the right guard spot. Y'all, I don't feel great about this. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. And if our priority is to keep Cam Ward upright in the pocket, why have we not been more aggressive in our pursuit to seriously upgrade the interior of our offensive line? I mean, I just don't understand it. It's almost like Titans like, okay, we'll just sign, you know, this guy and that guy to play center and right guard for us, and they'll be okay because, you know, these guys are decent players. But y'all, that's not how it works. Okay, we know games are won and lost in the trenches. You need to be strong up front. And right now, when I look at this, we're not strong up front. Not from an offensive line perspective. Now, defensively, man, our defensive line looks really good. But offensively, y'all, I have major concerns about this offensive line. I know we have Dan Moore, Peter Skoronski, and J.C. Latham. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But the interior of our offensive line, y'all, is a major weakness. And we have to address it. Now, I have faith in Jackson Slater. I think maybe in a year or two, he can become a very good guard for us, y'all. But to expect him to do this, and again, he only played 34 snaps last year in his rookie season. And now we're going to expect him to just automatically make the jump to become a really good starter in the NFL. I don't think that's fair to him. So again, y'all, like I said about the center position with Austin Sloutman, we need to be aggressive in terms of upgrading this guard spot, because I'm just concerned right now. And again, I thought our priority was to keep Cam Ward upright in the pocket. Well, it doesn't make sense to give him, you know, all these playmakers offensively if we cannot even protect him and give him time to throw the ball to them. So, again, just very concerned about what the plan is right now for the interior of our offensive line. I don't know if we're going to re-sign Kevin Zeitler. I hope we do. But even if we do, y'all, Kevin Zeitler is going to be 36. Right? So we still need to have a future plan in place about how we plan to attack this center and right guard spot. But y'all, just very disappointed that the Titans signed Austin Sloutman and Cordell Volson. I know we went out of order when it comes to what you see below on the ticker. But I did that intentionally because I really felt like I had to address this, y'all, because I just cannot believe some of the Titans fans I've seen on Twitter super excited about these signings. Y'all, these guys are not that good. You definitely don't want them to be starters for you. Definitely not Austin Sloutman. But I only believe Cordell Volson is a really good starter. I think he is a good depth player. Same with Austin Sloutman. But neither one of those guys, y'all, are really serviceable stars in the NFL. So we have to address the interior of our offensive line. And really at this point, it's going to come through the draft because, y'all, all the good interior offensive linemen have already been signed in free agency. So the only way we're going to be able to address this position is if we draft, a center or right guard. But again, y'all, it's going to be unfair to expect a rookie to immediately come in and be a starter. So I don't know what's going to happen. Y'all, I'm just concerned right now, but hopefully we have a plan in place to really attack the interior part of our offensive line, y'all. But now that we have, the ranting and raving out of the way, we can get to some more good news, y'all, as the Titans made a very underrated signing. As we signed, wrong graphic, we signed another former Giants player, y'all, tight end Daniel Bellinger to a 3-year, $24 million deal. And I know some people are saying, well, this was an overpay. Y'all noticing a lot of people are saying that about the transactions that the Titans made, right? Y'all said we overpaid for Wan'Dale Robinson and Alontae Taylor and John Franklin Myers and Daniel Bellinger. But I guarantee you, y'all, if those players signed with their favorite team, they wouldn't be saying that. I just find that interesting. It seems like everyone keeps saying we overpay for these players when that is literally what happens in free agency. You have to overpay if you want to make your team better. But anyways, y'all, I digress. Listen, Daniel Bellinger is the perfect number 2 tight end behind Gunnar Helm because he's athletic. He's 6'6", 250 pounds. Very good inline run blocker, right? Very good on his feet, y'all. Can move out in space as a blocker. So he really is almost like an extra offensive lineman on the field with how great he is as a run blocker. And again, the type of movement skills that he has, been able to really get out in space as a blocker. So I loved it about him, y'all. But I've seen some people say, well, he's just purely a blocking tight end. But I disagree with that because I think he has very solid hands. Can run routes at a decent level. You're not going to ask him to really do that. That's going to be Gunnar Helm's job. But let me tell you something, man. Daniel Bellinger could definitely get out in space, definitely move out there, in terms of running routes. I think he's going to be a very good red zone target for us because, he has such imposing size, standing at 6'6", 250 pounds. And I think, y'all, this is the move that we needed to make. And I know some people are upset that we let go of Chig Okonkwo, but y'all, let's be honest, Chig really clashed with the skill set that Gunnar Helm had, because really Gunnar Helm and Chig Okonkwo were the same type of players, right? Athletic tight ends who are really good receiving options, but not really the best in terms of run blocking. So we needed a really good run blocking tight end. That's what we have in Daniel Bellinger. But again, y'all, he's much more than just a run blocker, as he is really solid as a receiver as well. And again, I think he's really going to have a lot of value for us as a red zone target. So I love this, y'all. And I also think, he has some good versatility to him as well, because I think you can put him up, put him in the backfield as like a fullback / H-back, on third down situations, on, short yardage situations. So really love this signing for us. Think this was good value. And again, y'all, talk about age early when it came to Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott. Well, guess what? Daniel Bellinger is only 25 years old. And I think that is really a trend for all the Tennessee Titans free agent signings. Outside of John Franklin Myers, everyone else is incredibly young, like 25, 26 years old, which means, y'all, they can be a part of this team for years to come, which is great because, free agency is not just about the short term, but it's also about the long-term vision of your team and franchise. And the fact we've been able to, acquire so many guys that are really young and that can grow and mature with this franchise for years to come is something I think we really have to be excited about, y'all. And so, again, really love the Daniel Berger signing. Think he is a perfect complement to Gunnerham. And this means, y'all, that Gunnerham is going to be our number one tight end, which is great because, again, he and Chickakongwo, they just, really clashed when it came to their skill set because they do the same exact thing. So we needed to diversify our tight end room. That's what we did with the signing of Daniel Berger. So, again, really like that move for us, y'all. But not only did we add to the tight end room, but we also added a much-needed veteran presence to the quarterback room as we signed former Bills quarterback Mitch Trubisky to a 2-year, $10 million deal. And I love this signing. I know some people are probably saying, well, Zay, he's a backup quarterback. So, backup quarterbacks aren't that valuable. It's not like he's ever going to really play any meaningful snaps for us. But, y'all, this is exactly what we needed. A veteran presence in the quarterback room that can really, kind of help develop Cam Ward in a way in terms of what it takes to play the quarterback position. And that's what Mitch Trubisky is going to do. And then, y'all, in the event that Cam Ward gets injured, which hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it were to happen, Mitch Trubisky is solid. Like he has some solid moments, with the Buffalo Bills. When Josh Allen was injured, threw the ball pretty well, super accurate. And again, y'all, talk about that familiarity with Brian Daboll. He was with Brian Daboll when Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. So he understands his offense. He knows what's going to be asked of him. And so I really love it from both perspectives, y'all. What he's going to bring to us from an on-field perspective, but then also what he's going to bring in the locker room as a really good veteran presence. Really not just to Cam Ward, but to the entire team, y'all, because we do have a very young team, right? We don't have a lot of veteran players on our roster. So to add a guy like Mitch Trubisky that, when called upon, could, provide some solid play, but then also in the locker room, he's going to be a really good veteran presence for a lot of these young guys, mainly Cam Ward, but really all the young guys. So really like this signing. There's not really anything to dislike about this signing. I mean, maybe you rather had, a other backup quarterback out there. Like, I know some people wanted like Kyler Murray or Tua, but let's be honest, y'all, those guys never come here because they wanted to go to situations where they had a chance to start. If they came here, they were definitively going to be the backup quarterback to Cam Ward. So I don't think either one of those guys necessarily wanted that, but I'm very happy that we got Mitch Trubisky, y'all. And again, talk about the veteran leadership that he's going to ride to Cam Ward. It's going to be amazing. And one final point about Mitch Trubisky, y'all. This means that the Will Levis era is officially over in Tennessee. And y'all, listen, I was very high on Will Levis. We drafted him in 2023, but that ship has definitely sunk at this point. It's time for us to move on. And I really think for him, y'all, it would be best if we moved on because I think it would be kind of weird if we kept him at this point. He was really upset last year that we drafted a quarterback because he wanted to, continue to prove why he could be our franchise quarterback. And so after we drafted Cam Ward, remember, that's when he decided to have surgery. Didn't really like that because he could have had surgery as soon as the season ended, but he elected to wait and not have surgery until July, which meant he had to miss this entire season. So when he did that, I was like, yeah, it's just really, the best interest for us to just go, our separate ways, really just get rid of Will Levis and, give him an opportunity to start fresh with a new franchise. But with this, Mitch Trubisky signing, y'all, that definitely means that the Tennessee Titans will be getting rid of Will Levis, which, again, is what I want them to do in the first place. So I'm definitely okay with that. And y'all, the Titans continue to add to their DB room. And I told you we are going to be discussing this later. And now the time has come, y'all, as the Titans sign former Chiefs cornerback Joshua Williams to a 2-year, $10 million deal. And y'all, this is my favorite value signing for the Tennessee Titans because I think he has tremendous upside. Obviously, he has, again, y'all, that F word, familiarity with Mike Borgonzi, as Mike Borgonzi was a part of the Chiefs staff that drafted Josh Williams back in 2022, and he has the height, weight, and speed that the Titans covered in the corner. 6'3", 193 pounds, 34-inch arms, y'all. A physical press man corner. And when you look at his career, he has only allowed a 51.6% completion rate against opposing quarterbacks, which is absolutely elite. Now, it's a small sample size, right? He hasn't played that many snaps in his career, but when he has played, y'all, he has been a very solid player. And I believe he could potentially be our outside corner because if the Titans plan to play Alontae Taylor in the slot, then that means Cordell Flott is going to be on one side, Alontae Taylor is going to be in the slot, y'all, but that means that other outside spot is going to be vacant. But I think Josh Williams could be the outside corner for this team, y'all. And that might sound preposterous to say, but again, he has played very well in his limited snaps, and just the height, y'all, that he has, the length. 6'3", 193, 34-inch arms. I mean, he can be very disruptive, really clog up passing lanes for opposing quarterbacks, really, jam receivers, be aggressive at the line of scrimmage, and that's what the Titans want in their corners. And this is a drastic change for us, y'all, because historically, we've been more of a zone coverage team, which means we don't need our corners to be incredibly physical or incredibly aggressive in man coverage. But y'all, in Robert Saleh defense, that is what he wants. He wants you to jam these receivers at the line of scrimmage and really get in their grill and make it hard for them to be able to get open. And now we have three guys, y'all, that can do that at a pretty solid level. And so when you look at this cornerback room, Alontae Taylor, Cordell Flott, and Josh Williams, and don't forget, y'all, our 5th-round pick from last year, Marcus Harris, our 6th-round pick from last year, Marcus Harris. Yeah, this is a pretty solid cornerback room. Now, I still think we need to draft one in the 5th or 6th round, but this is turned into, y'all, a pretty solid cornerback room that we have in Tennessee. And again, all of the guys we signed, y'all, Alontae Taylor, Josh Williams, and Cordell Flott, they have three things in common: the height, the man coverage ability, and the physicality. Again, Alontae Taylor, 6 feet. Cordell Flott, 6'2". Josh Williams, 6'3". All of them very physical in man coverage and very aggressive as tacklers. Wow. I absolutely love this, y'all. So again, I think this was the best value signing that the Tennessee Titans had because Josh Williams is a very underrated player. And if he can just reach his potential, he can be a very good corner in this league, y'all. I honestly believe that because, again, in the small sample size that he played for the Chiefs, he played really well. So I love this cornerback room that we had. Again, add another guy, in the draft, but I wouldn't, mess with this cornerback group, y'all. I love the top 4 that we have right now. We just add another one, be 5 deep at that corner spot. Really be good for the Tennessee Titans. So, yeah, A+ signing for us, y'all. Really surprised that more teams weren't interested in his services because, again, I think really, he has a high upside. And if we're able to unlock that potential, oh, my gosh, we're going to have 3 incredible corners moving forward, y'all. And then the Tennessee Titans decided to attack the defensive line yet again as they signed former 49ers defensive tackle Jordan Elliott to a 2-year, $8 million deal. And again, y'all, I'm saying the F word, familiarity, right? He is very familiar with this defense as Robert Saleh was his defensive coordinator during his time with the San Francisco 49ers. So I think you see the Titans want to get a lot of guys that, have familiarity with their system, whether that was with Brian Daboll's system offensively or Robert Saleh's system defensively. And I don't have a problem with that. Now, I've seen some people on Twitter make jokes about this saying, well, why do the Titans want guys from teams, that help their current coaches get fired. You know, I've seen people say, well, why Robert Saleh want all of his former players that helped him get fired from the Jets? Or why would Brian Daboll, want all his former players from the Giants that helped him get fired? But y'all, here's the thing. Look at the Giants and Jets. Those organizations are an absolute mess. I don't think it's a reflection on Brian Daboll or Robert Saleh as coaches. I think it's a more so reflection on the organizations they were part of. So I have no problem with them signing guys that they are comfortable with, that they know that will easily be able to, learn their defense and really help teach their defense and offense to their teammates, y'all. But when you look at Jordan Elliott, man, I mean, he is a perfect fit, for Robert Saleh's defense. He's exactly what Robert Saleh values in the defensive tackle in terms of having that athleticism, being able to, fill your gaps, penetrate at the line of scrimmage, accelerate upfield, and really make plays in the backfield as a run stuffer. And y'all, he is going to fill the T'Vondre Sweat role, because we know T-Sweat, he was a run stuffer. The difference is, though, he's 365 pounds. Jordan Elliott is 308 pounds and moves very well on his feet, whereas, T'Vondre Sweat, he wasn't really, a lateral mover. That wasn't necessarily what he excelled at, but that is what Jordan Elliott excels at. And so, is he going to be, some superstar player for us? No. Do you want him to necessarily, start any games for you? No, although he does have experience as being a starter, but he's going to provide very good depth for our defensive line next to John Franklin Myers and Big Jeff Simmons. I think that's all you can ask for, y'all. And again, really good run stopper, can fill his gaps, penetrate, into the backfield, really accelerate upfield, and, make plays behind the line of scrimmage, whether that's as a pass rusher or a run stuffer, even though he doesn't, have too many pass rush ability in his game. But, he can definitely get after the quarterback at a decent level. But really, y'all, his value is going to come as being a run stuffing guy that can really just move well laterally. And that's what we really need, in this new defense, y'all. Again, this new defense under Robert Saleh is all about speed and athleticism and versatility on all three levels. Even as a 300-plus pound defensive lineman, you got to be fast, you got to be athletic, you got to be able to move on your feet, because that is what Robert Saleh requires in his defense. So really like this signing of Jordan Elliott, y'all. He's going to provide, again, really good depth behind Big Jeff Simmons and John Franklin Myers. And he obviously knows this system incredibly well. So I just think this is a great signing for the Titans, y'all. And then last but not least, the Titans upgraded their special teams unit in a massive way as they signed former Chiefs and Texans punter Tommy Townsend to a 2-year, $6 million deal. And thank God, y'all, because Johnny Hekker was absolutely atrocious last year. I mean, and I know so many people had high expectations for him because he had been, one of the best punters in the NFL during his time with the Carolina Panthers. Y'all, Johnny Hekker was absolutely horrible last season. And now we had a guy in Tommy Townsend who's probably the best punter in the NFL. He had 30 punts last year, y'all, that landed inside the 20, which is absolutely incredible. He has a strong leg, and he does not outkick his coverage. And so that's really about all you can ask for in an elite punter. As long as you have a guy, y'all, that has a strong leg, that is able to, pin the opposing offenses back deep, and also, y'all, that doesn't outkick his coverage like Johnny Hekker did, then what more can you ask for in a punter? So I love this signing for the Titans. Pretty cheap if you ask me, y'all, because, again, I think Tommy Townsend is the best punter in the league, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't get, maybe $4 or $5 million. But, hey, I love it. 2 years, $6 million deal for us. Great deal, y'all. I think he's going to continue to be an elite punter just like he was for the Chiefs and Texans. And the reason I really love this, y'all, is that we got to take him away from one of our rivals, right? I mean, we got to, make the Texans worse while we greatly improved our special teams unit, y'all. Not only did we do that, but we also re-signed Joey Slye, right? So I love the kicker and punter situation, y'all, with having Joey Slye and Tommy Townsend, again, one of the best, I think the best punter in the league. And I think now we have one of the best special teams unit in the NFL, led by Bones Fossil. And then we have Chimere DK as our punt returner and kick returner. I mean, wow, y'all, our special teams unit looks absolutely elite. And there were a couple of other moves that the Titans made that I was not able to include in the ticker, but they were minor moves. So we signed former Chiefs defensive lineman Malik Herring to a 1-year deal. I think it was worth $2 million, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, he's really just a camp body. I don't even think he's going to make this roster, but, hey, you need to carry 90 guys heading into, OTAs and minicamp. He's going to be one of those guys, y'all. I don't expect him to make this roster, so don't expect anything from Malik Herring. We also signed former Jets safety Tony Adams to a 1-year deal. We don't know the terms of that deal. But this is a guy, y'all, that I think is actually going to be pretty decent for us because, again, he has experience playing in Robert Saleh's defense. And we know Robert Saleh loves to rotate 3 safeties in his defense. And so now we have 3, solid safeties in Tony Adams, Amani Hooker, and Kevin Winston Jr. So I like it. I think we need to sign one more, or we could draft the safety. So either sign or draft one more safety, be 4 deep at the safety spot. But I like this signing, y'all. Don't have a problem with it. Tony Adams, very versatile player. You can line him up in the box because he's a pretty solid tackle, or you can put him, deep in coverage because he has pretty good range and instincts. And he has starting experience, right? He started a plethora of games in his career. So I don't have a problem with signing at all. And with him, being our third safety, man, this is probably a bargain because I believe he could be a starting safety for most teams, but for us, he's going to be a rotational player for us. So really love this signing, y'all. And then another transaction that the Titans made was signing former Commanders defensive end Jacob Martin to a 2-year, $11 million deal. He's a decent speed rusher, right? Had 5 sacks last year. But other than that, y'all, not going to get much more from him in terms of, run defense. He's really just going to be a good rotational pass rusher for us. But, y'all, we got to add a dominant edge rusher, man. I mean, we really need to do that. And I know I stated earlier, listen, Jermaine Johnson, he's a good player. Femi Oladejo, he's unproven. Jacob Martin, solid rotational player. Y'all, that cannot be our pass rushing trio heading into this season. We need to find a dominant pass rusher. Ideally, we really need to find a dominant speed rusher, hint, like a Arvell Reese or David Bailey. That's really what we need. Because Jermaine Johnson, he's a power rusher, right? Femi Oladejo, power rusher. Jacob Martin, decent speed rush, but I mean, we need a dominant speed rusher that can accelerate off the line of scrimmage, bend that corner, and immediately, get into the quarterback's lap. That's what we need, y'all. We don't have that guy on the roster right now, so probably going to find it in the draft either at pick 4 or at pick 35. But to me, that's probably the biggest remaining need on this defense would be a dominant speed rusher. And also, we need a linebacker too, y'all. And that's why I think wouldn't be shocked that we drafted Sonny Styles at pick 4. Just saying, Titans fans, keep your eyes out for that one. I think he would fit this defense like a T with his speed, athleticism, range, and instincts. I know I'm kind of, going off topic a little bit, but I just wanted to bring that up that although we have Jermaine Johnson, Femi Oladejo, now we signed Jacob Martin, we still need a dominant pass rusher, ideally a dominant speed rusher. So I just want to throw that out to people. We still need that number 1 guy, a game changer at the edge rusher spot, y'all, because we have not had that since Javon Curse. And listen, Javon Curse is one of the best players in Titans history. Saw him last night, at our jersey reveal party. And, man, if he wasn't in his 50s, I would say give him a contract right now because Javon Curse looks like he's still just as fast and athletic as he was at 24, 25 as he is right now at 51 or 52. So, yeah, that shows you, y'all, we really need to find that dominant guy that could come off that edge. But Jacob Martin is going to be a solid rotational guy for us. And then, y'all, the final move that we made was acquiring defensive tackle Solomon Thomas from the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for a 7th-round pick. It was a 7th-round pick pick swap. So we gave up our 218th pick in this year's draft for the Cowboys, 225th pick in this year's draft. And I love this, y'all. I mean, again, you're going to hear me say that word again. Solomon Thomas is very familiar with Robert Saleh's defense. He's literally played in Robert Saleh's defense twice, right? He played for him with the 49ers, then he played in his defense again with the New York Jets. And you look at Solomon Thomas, really good run stuffer and pass rusher, super versatile, y'all. Can play him, you know, as a 3-tech or 5-tech, kind of like John Franklin Myers. Obviously, he's not on the level of John Franklin Myers when it comes to being able to, you know, do it at an elite level, but he definitely has good versatility to his game. And again, he understands what's expected in this defense. And so when you look at this defensive line that we have, y'all, really when it pertains to our defensive tackles, I mean, my goodness, we have a very good defensive tackle rotation with John Franklin Myers, Big Jeff, Jordan Elliott, and Solomon Thomas, y'all. And this is just amazing because we have not had, you know, this type of depth on our defensive line in years, y'all. I mean, the last time we probably had really good depth on our defensive line was like 2018, maybe 19, you know, when we had guys like Austin Johnson, Jarrell Casey, Daquan Jones, you know, Brian Rapco. That's probably the last time we had good defensive line depth. But I think this is even better, y'all, because you know, Jarrell Casey was a great player, but like Austin Johnson, Daquan Jones, they were decent. Big Jeff is an elite player, and John Franklin Myers is a great player. So, man, I just really love this defensive line group that we have assembled, y'all. And then we got really good depth, too, really good backups in Jordan Elliott and Solomon Thomas, guys that for some teams would be starters, but for us, they're going to provide us with really quality depth, y'all. So, overall, I think this was a really good free agency period for the Titans. You know, we really improved our secondary in a massive way with the signings of Cordell Flott, Joshua Williams, and Alontae Taylor. Added a really great defensive lineman next to Big Jeff and John Franklin Myers. You know, added some depth, although we still need to find some starters, but added some depth to our offensive line and Austin Sloutman and Cordell Volson, Added some nice safety depth. And Tony Adams, added some really good defensive line depth in Jordan Elliott and Solomon Thomas. And to top it all off, y'all, we added the best punter in the NFL and Tommy Townsend. And so I think this was a great free agency period for the Titans, y'all. I would give us an A-. The only reason I cannot give us an A is because, again, I don't think we addressed the offensive line, you know, adequately. You know, signing backup level guys like Cordell Volson and Austin Sloutman, I'm sorry, you have to do better than that, because right now, y'all, it almost seems like these guys will be starters for us. So that's the only thing that's holding me back from giving, you know, our free agent acquisitions an A, but definitely give us an A-, y'all, for the players that we were able to acquire. And we can still make moves, right? I think we still have about $25 million in salary cap space, so we can still make moves, although not too many interior offensive linemen still left on the market. Our linebackers, because y'all, linebackers is a huge need for this team as well. I keep trying to tell people Cody Barton is a horrible fit in this defense. So I think we really had to, you know, improve the interior of our offensive line, edge rusher and linebacker, you know, add another receiver, potentially upgrade a running back. But, y'all, I mean, let's be honest, we addressed a lot of our needs, and I didn't think we were going to be able to do that because we had so many needs. But give credit to Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh. They came in, had a plan in place, y'all, and fortunately for us, they were able to execute that plan, and our roster looked so much better than it did on Sunday night, y'all. I mean, boy, did they really improve our team in a tremendous way, y'all. And now we just got to hope that it will pay off on the field. And honestly, y'all, I think it will. I really think all these signs are going to pay off, especially the big signs we made. Now, some of these, you know, smaller deals that we signed might not pay off, but I think all the massive contracts that we signed, you know, John Franklin Myers, Alontae Taylor, Cordell Flott, and Wan'Dale Robinson, I think all those guys are going to be incredible players for us, y'all. And man, I think it's just an amazing time to be a Titans fan. I mean, we just had an amazing free agency period. You know, we still have some salary cap space to make some more moves. So technically, we're not done making free agent moves. We had the 4th pick, you know, in the this year's draft, y'all. But then the thing I think we're all excited about, and man, y'all, I really love this, is these new jerseys that we got. I mean, look at that, y'all. Woo! Absolutely fire, man. Love it, love it, love it. Listen, it's a new era in Tennessee, y'all. We are the Titans of Tennessee, and we are going to restore this franchise. It might take a year or two, but I really believe, y'all, we are headed on the right track back to greatness. We have our GM in place in Mike Bergonzi. We have our head coach in place in Robert Saleh. We have our OC in place in Brian Daboll. We have the best special teams coach in the NFL in John Bones Fossil. We have some really good young players like Cedric Gray, Cam Ward, Chimere Dike, Alec Manor, Kevin Winston Jr., Peter Skoronski, J.C. Latham. Has some really good veteran players like Big Jeff Simmons, Amani Hooker, John Franklin Myers, Dan Moore, Calvin Ridley. And now, y'all, we just added some really great players in free agency to really help fortify this roster. And again, y'all, we still have the 4th pick in the 2026 NFL draft to potentially add a game changer at running back, and Jeremiah Love to potentially add a game changer at edge rusher, and Arthur Reese or David Bailey, or potentially, y'all, this would be a surprise to some, but not to me, to add a game changer at linebacker in Sonny Styles. And y'all really don't think we can go wrong either way with whoever we select. Whether we select Jeremiah Love or Arthur Reese, David Bailey, Sonny Styles, potentially maybe even still Ruben Bain, maybe even Caleb Downs, although that would really surprise me. But we really cannot go wrong, y'all, because there are so many good players that are going to be, you know, at our disposal for us to potentially draft. But I'm just incredibly fired up, y'all, again, and the direction that this franchise is heading. Having just so many really good pieces in place from the coaching staff standpoint, from a roster standpoint, from a management standpoint, y'all. Having these really clean jerseys and having a new stadium on the horizon in 2027. I'm telling you, this is an amazing time to be a Tennessee Titans fan. Man, we're no longer going to be the laughing stock of the NFL. Brighter days are ahead, Tennessee Titans fans. Just keep believing in the process. And I'm telling you, we will get to the promised land one day. So there I have it. This was me reacting and recapping to the Tennessee Titans 2026 free agent signings. I appreciate everyone for coming through on tonight, man. I really hope you enjoyed this live. Shout out to all my people on Twitch as well, because I was live on Twitch. Shout out to everyone on YouTube. As y'all know, I pretty regularly will go live on YouTube, but it's been quite some time since I've gone live, on Twitch. So I wanted to give a shout out to all my viewers on Twitch. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate for you tuning in. And y'all had a ton of fun coming on here, reacting and recapping to the Tennessee Titans 2026 free agency signings. And I hope you did as well. Remember, y'all, laughter is good medicine. So what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm going to end it, man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.